Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chad and Sam Show. I'm Sam Mullen here with Chad Train, and we're going to be hitting the National League today. We're continuing our baseball series. We're going with the National League East today, Chad. This is one that I think people may be looking for some change in the guard because we've seen the Atlanta Braves really dominate this division for the last about 2 decades now. You know, maybe we'll see a change in that, but let's go ahead and get it started. We're going with the Miami Marlins today, Chad. What are you seeing with this team?
The Miami Marlins are a team in progress. They aren't anywhere near their 2003 World Series team. Lost a lot. They're a young team. They are a prospect-driven team. That's where they're like the National League version of the Houston Astros. They are a young team relying on their prospects, and because of that, you've seen them struggle recently. You have Giancarlo Stanton wanting to get out of Miami because he's tired of losing. And that's a huge problem. When your star player, the person you want to make the face of the franchise, wants out, you need to start making some moves to help improve this team. And actually, that they made some moves that I feel will improve this team during the offseason.
Well, you're absolutely right in the fact that this is a team that needs to get these prospects to perform, because you look at the 5-year trend for this team, they have gotten less wins every single season. 5 years ago in 2009, they had 87 wins, down to 62 last year. So clearly it is time for them to gain some improvement in that. And I agree, they did make some possibly good moves. We look at, they're going to have a new starting third baseman in Casey McGehee, who had a big year with the Milwaukee Brewers not too long ago. Then they also got Garrett Jones out of Pittsburgh, who was one of their star hitters. And then Rafael Furcal, guy who may be in the latter part of his career. They're moving him from shortstop to second base, but he's meant to be there for his speed and the fact that he maybe can get on base and just be a threat to potentially score some runs for this Miami Marlins team.
Rafael Furcal, I'm interested in seeing how he does. Age is there. He's definitely up there in age. He's had a solid career. Good career with Atlanta. Did good for his age in St. Louis. I believe he had some playing time. He battled injuries. He didn't play a lot, but when he was playing, he was doing well. But how much can he bring to the table for the Marlins at the age that he is? The move I like the most, looking at all the additions they have, Jared Saltalamacchia. Good production last year for the Red Sox. Can he bring that same production to the Marlins Park? It's a much bigger park than what he's used to in Fenway, and you got to wonder how much this ballpark that he's going to be playing in now, that his home stadium, will have on his production this year.
Well, I think the other thing with Jared Saltalamacchia that may be important is he's not the guy that's backing up Giancarlo Stanton in the batting order. He's batting fourth. Giancarlo Stanton bats third. Is he enough of a threat to really protect Stanton so that Stanton sees some pitches? Because Stanton, we know his raw power. Absolutely amazing power. This is a guy that can hit 40 home runs in a season without even blinking an eye. The question is, can Jared really back him up? If we go back to a couple of years ago, he actually, I believe, led the Red Sox in home runs in, I believe it was 2012. If he gets that kind of production this year, then this Miami Marlins offense may be able to thrive.
And they can thrive, but the way I see thrive, they didn't really have the best offense to begin with. So a thriving offense for the Miami Marlins may be average. So you got to look to their pitching staff, which is kind of a give and take. The pitching staff is only as good as your offense, and the offense can kind of be only as good as the pitching staff, because if you can't expect your offense to put up 10 runs every game. So if the pitching gives up 6 or so runs, the Miami Marlins are in trouble, because I don't see this team as a team that can put up that many runs on a pretty consistent basis. You have some solid pieces throughout the lineup. You have Giancarlo Stanton. You have Garrett Jones, Saltalamacchia. but there's no. You have your problems with him as well. Giancarlo Stanton striking out a lot. He's not a contact hitter, and he's a power hitter. And you just got to wonder what is going to be the driving force behind this team. But when you have a pitching staff that is led by Rookie of the Year winner Jose Hernandez, Jose Fernandez. We have a typo here. You got to feel somewhat confident that every 5 days you have a guy that gives you a good chance to win.
He had an absolutely fantastic season for them last year. When you can win Rookie of the Year and put up numbers like he did in really a miserable team, going 12-6 with just over a 2 ERA. I mean, if he puts that up over the long haul this year, we may be looking at a Cy Young Award winner. I mean, but the question is, can he do that? He has the talent, but are people going to be able to adjust to his pitching? Because that is something that you will often see in the second year of a player's career. They've figured out what he likes to do, what he's good at, what he's bad at, and they will force you to do the things you're not very good at. And if he can't adjust, find something else that they aren't expecting him to be good at, maybe develop a new pitch, be able to work inside unlike he's been able to do in the past potentially, is that going to give him an extra opportunity to succeed?
I think he'll do well. It's going to be an interesting situation with Miami Marlins. I feel that Jose Fernandez has the talent to produce just like he did last year, but how will his offense support him? Will the lack of offense translate to more losses because the offense can't support him and can't get him those wins? There's a lot of question marks that surround this team, and that can be a good thing sometimes. But in the Miami Marlins case, I see it as a very uneasy thing for a team that wants to see them improve and be not the laughingstock of the NL East.
No, I'm with you. We talked about Jose Fernandez and the importance he has to the pitching staff, and then just really, will the offense be able to keep up? This is a team that does have a lot of questions, but sometimes the questions, when they get answered, it's the surprise. They could be a team that comes out of nowhere this year for all we know. There's no way to predict these things safely at times because you could have these rookie pitchers or rookie hitters that come up with a big year out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, well, welcome to the playoffs, Miami. I mean, that kind of thing can happen. Do I think it will with this team? No, I don't see that happening. I mean, we're talking about a team that went 69-93 in 2012 for fifth in the division. In 2013, 62-100. That going for fifth in division once again. I don't see them being anywhere near what they want to be, but I definitely see improvement. Personally, I see them going 73-89. That's an 11-win improvement. They will be better, but they still need to make more steps in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I definitely agree with you with the idea of them improving. I see them going 75-87. Again, it's an improvement, and that's what they're doing at this point. Is they want to see that improvement. They're not there for the talent to get to the playoffs, but they're showing the rest of the NL East that, hey, we're here to play. We're tired of being pushed around by you guys, and that in a matter of time, we'll be the ones who are at the top of the NL East, vying for that crown again. So don't sleep on them. But you have other teams that have been struggling recently. We're going to Philadelphia now, going to the Phillies. They're in a very iffy situation because a lot of their talent, like the Yankees, are on the downsides of their career. They're older, and they're kind of in a slow rebuilding mode at this point.
Well, I mean, one thing we did see them do last year, they found a center fielder they really, really like, a guy that can be around for a while, in Ben Revere. This year, really their only loss of note is Roy Halladay, but that is a huge loss. This is a 2-time Cy Young Award-winning pitcher, one in each league because he started his career in Toronto, and not only was he considered to be one of the best pitchers in baseball over the past decade, he was considered to be a just great mentor in the clubhouse. This is a guy that meant a lot to this city in what they were able to do the last couple of years, and I mean, he's gone. It definitely hurts them in that regard. What to look at that may help them is the fact that they signed A.J. Burnett away from their state rival, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
A.J. Burnett is a good signing. I don't think he will wow anyone. I think he will be kind of like the Reds, former Red Bronson Arroyo. He's someone who can come in, give you good production, stay relatively healthy. He's not going to be a Cy Young candidate. Those days are over for him. He is riding off into the sunset eventually, and he was considering retiring this offseason. The Pirates were waiting. They were waiting for him to decide. He didn't end up signing with them. He didn't end up retiring, and he chose the Phillies instead, showing maybe that he possibly believes the Phillies have some more in them, because if I were him, I wouldn't want to be going to the Phillies because the Pirates are in a better position to win. Now, I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago. I don't think anyone would have said that a couple of years ago, but that's the case now. The Phillies are on the downswing. The Pirates are on the upswing. But you look at these other ones, Marlon Byrd, good pickup. He was the probably biggest steal in free agency last year. He was signed to a 1-year deal worth only like $500,000 or whatever, and he comes out and puts up 24 homers. And Pirates acquire him eventually via trade, I believe, and he does well for them. So Phillies are like, okay, we need power. We're going to jump on the Marlon Byrd bandwagon, hope that he gives us a portion of what he gave the teams last year. But other than that, you look at their additions, Ronnie Cedeno, Journeyman, and Bobby Abreu. This just has publicity stunt written all over it for me. The sentiment of, oh, he was great for us back then, and you know what? Great guy, let's bring him back to Philadelphia. But he's not going to do anything for you. Just Philly fans should not even, they should enjoy the fact that he's in Philadelphia again, but don't expect anything out of him.
I'm with you, and I mean, I see a theme with the Philadelphia Phillies in don't expect anything out of them, because when was the last time you heard anything good about Ryan Howard? When was the last time you heard anything good about Chase Utley? These are the cornerstone hitters of this franchise, and they've been injured, and they just haven't produced. So I guess my question is, how long does this continue before they go, you know what, maybe it's time we try and bring in a new group of young talent and give them a chance? And I think that's something that you saw a little bit with this spring training so far with Jimmy Rollins. Jimmy Rollins has had a bit of an issue already with new manager Ryan Sandberg, where Ryan Sandberg said, Jimmy, I'm going to rest you for a few days. He sat Tuesday through Thursday this week, and Jimmy was not too thrilled about that. Jimmy has not been producing very well during this spring training so far. And what Ryan Sandberg wanted to do was try and see what he had in Freddie Galvis, who will probably be one of their guys coming off the bench during this season. And Ryan Sandberg wants to know, what can he give me over the course of this season? Well, Rollins seemed to not take too well to being benched and talked about how the games don't matter, and which made it sound like he didn't care. But Jimmy was just trying to say the fact that he wasn't too concerned about his struggles because the games do not have any sort of value in terms of going to the playoffs at the end of the year. So what I think we need to be looking at is there a rift between these two guys that, where Jimmy's been around for a long time, Ryan Sandberg's a new manager, but he is the manager. He's very important to this team. is there going to be some issues between these two guys? And if there is, will we see Jimmy Rollins on the trade market? Will we see Ryan Howard on the trade market? Will we see Chase Utley, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, these guys that are making a lot of money? Will we see them on the trade market? Are they on their way out?
I mean, that's definitely a question you have to ask. Some of the names you mentioned, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, I don't see them getting traded. Injury prone hurts their marketability, their worth in terms of getting something out of them worth trading. And with Chase Utley especially, he is now. Don't get me wrong. Faces of franchises do get traded. However, Philadelphia, I don't think would trade him. If anything, they would let him go when his current contract expires. Ryan Howard, he's just not worth trading because I don't think they can get enough for him to consider them trading. The only person you mentioned, Cole Hamels, is the key person to watch out of everyone. Cliff Lee can get something. They can get something for him, but nothing compared to what they can get from Cole Hamels. Having said that, Cole Hamels needs to produce. Struggled last year, hurt his trade stock. So the Phillies are really hoping, hey, they're probably nudging him like, hey, like, go out there and produce well, have a great season. And Cole Hamels wants to too, but I feel the Phillies are more along the lines of, yeah, we want you to have a good season because, one, it helps us on two fronts. That means we're doing good as a team, and that increases your trade stock. So if we wanted to trade you, we could get more for you.
Well, you said Cole Hamels struggled, and frankly, that is true. But then again, the entire team struggled. Cole Hamels went 8-14 last year. A 3.6 ERA is not bad, but the fact is he didn't have an offense behind him to produce, and that is why you saw them go 73-89 last year, good for fourth in the division. 2012, 81-81, good for third in the division. And that was coming off a year where they had 102 wins. This is a team that, like we said, it's just they're getting older, and because of that, I just don't see them getting better. I actually have them as being one of the worst teams in baseball because these guys won't stay healthy. They don't have enough in the minors, in my opinion, to really take care of this team in the meantime. And at some point, I think we will see some of these guys get traded at the deadline where they're going to contenders. They're going to fill in these little small patches that these teams need to take care of in order to make them better. I have them going 64-98.
I think they're going to get better. I think this will be a surprise team to the extent that they won't be outstanding. They'll just do better than what most people expect. I see them going 82-80, just above the 500 mark. It's going to be a fluke. Every team wins those games that you shouldn't win. Luck goes their way. I feel like they'll get enough out of Marlon Byrd to help them. I think A.J. Burnett will step up and do reasonably well to help improve the win mark. And there's other players that we didn't even mention that I think will show consistency. Dominic Brown, great year last year, hit 24, 27 homers, and I see him putting up similar numbers. I think those combined with Utley staying fairly healthy and putting up decent numbers, understanding that he's getting old, all those together, I see them scratching that peak and getting just over 500 with 82-80.
Well, I think this is a team to watch just in the fact that it could really go either way. We can kind of tell where a lot of teams are headed. The Phillies are just one that really could surprise some people. I think you may be on the right track, but I do believe that this is going to be a struggle for them. But moving to one of their rivals, we look at the New York Mets. New York Mets may have had the worst thing to ever happen to this franchise, other than the fact that they had Johan Santana signed to whatever horrible deal he was signed to after they traded for him. They lost Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey was going to be the face of this pitching staff, the face of this, maybe even the face of this team. But he goes down with a very, very key injury. He's getting Tommy John surgery. He's done for the year. This guy will not be seeing the field at all this year. And he was about the one pitcher on the staff that they could rely on. And with him gone, who do you look to from there?
I mean, I think that their pitching's young. That's an issue. They haven't had a solid offense in a couple years, and they're trying to rebuild from that. They're trying to get back to the offense where they had players like Carlos Beltran and good Jason Bay. But I don't see anything. I think Curtis Granderson is someone that they went out and acquired this offseason. I think that's a solid pickup for them. But the pitching is question mark. And losing Harvey is a huge hit to them. But they got Bartolo Colon. Now some people are maybe thinking, Bartolo Colon, he's 40 years old right now. However, as a 40-year-old, last year with the A's, started 30 games and finished 18-6 with a 2.65 ERA. You can't use age as an excuse anymore. When someone that old can go out and put up those numbers, he wasn't a strikeout king, only 117 strikeouts and 190.1 innings, but he wins. He gets them in a position to win, and that's what the Mets need. They need a pitcher that puts them in the position to win when he leaves the game.
And I do agree. Colon is a really nice pickup for them. There are a couple guys on their pitching set that are a little bit younger that could mature into a good starter for them. You look at Dylan G, Zach Wheeler. These are guys that could be something someday. They're not there yet. I think that we can agree on. You look at the lineup for them. David Wright is still around, and that is hugely important for them because he's the guy that really puts this offense together. Having Curtis Granderson on the team as another power hitter, I mean, I don't know if we can even call him a power hitter, frankly, because you go from short right field in Yankee Stadium and move him over to the New York Mets, and that just huge field there. How many home runs is he going to hit? I guarantee you he's not hitting 40. Curtis Granderson is going to have to find some gaps in the middle of the outfield where he can get some doubles, maybe even triples, and help out this offense in a different manner than he's used to from the last couple of years.
I mean, what they're hoping out of Curtis Granderson is that he finds his Comerica Park swing, because he was still very productive with Tigers in Comerica Park, and that's a big stadium, just like the Mets. The only difference is the height of the outfield walls, because I feel that the height of the outfield walls in Citi Field may be a little bit bigger, which means you need to elevate the ball more. Not to the point where you're hitting a pop-up, because obviously that's not going to do you any good. But you have Curtis Granderson, you have David Wright. That's your core of your offense, to put it simply. Now you have other players that you hope step up. Eric Young Jr., they acquired about later in the season from the Colorado Rockies, and he did decent with Colorado. He's not a contact hitter. He's a person that gets on base overall and gets in scoring position to set you up. With the Mets, he played 91 games with the Mets last year, and he stole 38 bases with only 7 caught stealings, hitting .251. Not flashy, but it gets the job done, and you hope that in this ballpark you can find the gaps more and up that batting average to 260, 265.
Yeah, I think another guy to look at is their rookie catcher, Travis d'Arnaud. He's something of a wild card with this team just in the fact that his hitting is considered to be very questionable in terms of some of the other catching prospects. What he's known for is his defensive ability and his relationship with pitchers. That is what he's really made a name for coming up through the minor league system. If he can give them solid offensive production where he can get, whether even if that's just hitting 270 to 275, 15 to 20 home runs and 60 RBIs, they will have gotten probably more than what they really wanted from him, because he's in there really in the same way that Yadier Molina was in with the Cardinals at the beginning of his career. He's there to be defensive, and that if he can hold that up, he will have established his position as the full-time catcher. But if he can produce hitting-wise, we may see an entirely different New York Mets team.
I agree with that. But the way I see it also is, if you can't produce offensively, defense can only get you so far. And while this is it, he's dealt with multiple injuries that have kind of halted and stalled his progression up to the majors. He only played 31. He ended up playing 31 games for the Mets last year, and hit only .202 in 99 at bats with a homer and 5 RBIs, with a .286 on base percentage. Yes, he's going to have a full season, hopefully, possibly, but that doesn't do it. Like that, and his defensive skills doesn't earn him a starting position. It wouldn't in my book. I would want someone who could hit better. So, and he's 25. So you're hoping at 25 you're going to be able to find your stroke, something that works for you, and be able to produce better offensively, not 202. And hopefully with a bigger sample size, it'll produce better results. If you can get him hitting 262 and getting maybe 10 homers and 45 RBIs, then I would be happy.
Any improvement is better for this team, because catcher has been something of a tough spot for them for quite some years. And while that's not the only struggle that they've really had, I mean, you just see the fact that they're not a winning team. They went 74 and 88 in 2013. That's good for third in the division, in a very, very weak division, I might add. And then in 2012, same record, 74 and 88, fourth in the division. That was before the Phillies were a little bit better. And then, 2014, where do you see them going? I see them kind of falling a little bit, and that's somewhat because of Matt Harvey. It's tough to replace a guy that can give you 20 wins in a season without having too much of an issue there, because he is that talented of a pitcher. I have them going 70 and 92, but if they had Matt Harvey, we could be talking something very different.
I actually see them improving, and it's not a big improvement. I see them going 78 and 84. A huge reason I believe this is I think you'll see improvements across the board from some of these guys like Eric Young Jr. I think he will help them at the top of the lineup. You have David Wright. Has always been solid for them. Has always been good for them. Curtis Granderson, I think, will be healthy and he'll produce. So having David Wright and Curtis Granderson will definitely help the offense. And I think Bartolo Colon, despite his age, will stay healthy. And no matter what, the Mets are gonna feel that emptiness and that void from Harvey not pitching. But I think Colon will make it easier for the Mets. I think he will help them get to a better place, and hopefully stays healthy, sticks with the Mets when they get Harvey back, and this pitching staff could be a little bit better. But who knows? It's Father Time's probably knocking on Colon's door, and you got to wonder how effective he'll be.
Well, I mean, Harvey, he's dealing with his issues. Another guy that's kind of been dealing with some issues, moving over to the Washington Nationals, is Stephen Strasburg. Strasburg missed a lot of I believe 2012 with some injuries. 2013, not as strong of a year for him. This Washington Nationals team really wants to, in my opinion, win because of that pitching staff. And it's not and they didn't just they don't need Strasburg to improve, but they have to replace Dan Haren, who, while the last couple of years haven't been the best for him, but the fact is Dan Haren is a fantastic pitcher in the end. So their replacement for Dan Haren is Doug Fister. Please explain that one to me, because I understand it was a trade with the Detroit Tigers, but I don't see him being able to put up as good of numbers with the Nationals, especially because their offense, in my opinion, is nowhere near the strength that you saw in Detroit.
With Fister, who knows? Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. With the strength of the Washington Nationals offense is nowhere near what Detroit was. So yeah, he has to realize that. He has to get in that mental state that, hey, I need to turn things up more because I'm not playing for Detroit anymore. I don't have Miguel Cabrera and all these other superstars on our team. I'm under a new team. I'm in a different ballpark. But I don't find it a bad acquisition. I think it'll do fine. It'll do the job. And they need to get to the point where it's like the pitchers shouldn't work. Like whoever's pitching out there shouldn't matter, and that they feel comfortable with their offense. And so I think their offense is more of a problem because they have so many close games. Luckily they've had good closers in the past, but if your offense can produce well, your pitchers will feel more relaxed in knowing that they're supported better, and they'll just go out there and pitch, not recklessly, but pitch in a comfortable mental setting and produce better.
Well, looking at this team, one thing that sticks out to me is the fact that they had only one guy at 300 or better on the offensively, and that was Jason Worth, who really had a surprisingly good year with this team. But, you look at Ryan Zimmerman. He's really known more of as a contact hitter than a power hitter. Well, he only hit 275. Their phenom, Bryce Harper, only hit 274. He was hurt for a lot of the season. Can he stay healthy, much like what we're saying with Strasburg? There's quite a few important things to look at with this offense that goes beyond just will they help their pitching staff? Can they even stay on the field? Is a whole nother question to me.
Definitely. You saw that with Dan Haren. He struggled, wasn't anywhere near the dominant pitcher he used to be, which is why he's out of Washington. He needed a change of scenery, and he went to LA. So, I think that's a positive thing for Washington. I don't think they really got anything out of Haren, and thus, addition by subtraction. So, when I look at this team, the thing to watch for me is Strasburg. Plain and simple. Will he be able to bounce back from a mediocre 89 season? Because when your star ace, who you view as your ace of your pitching staff, goes 8-9, that doesn't spell any good for the rest of your pitching staff. So I understand that he's young and that he's going to be facing the aces of the other teams, hypothetically speaking. But 8-9 as an ace isn't good. That's not going to help your team. So he needs to step it up. He needs to go out there and just perform better.
Well, I think one thing that may help alleviate some of that pressure on him is the fact that they do have two other guys that are top pitchers in Jordan Zimmerman, went 19-9 last year, and then you look at Gio Gonzalez. Not one of his best years, 11-8, but part of that is just the fact that he got a lot of no decisions, and that's not something that I think we'll see very much of with him. I see him getting up into the high teens.
And hopefully it's for the better.
Hopefully for the better. I see him as a high teens wins guy He was worth the trade they made for him. This bullpen, in my opinion, is still very good. Rafael Soriano is a great closer. Clippard and Storen, as setup guys, have a lot of talent. If their pitching staff can hold up this offense while they go through injuries, because you can guarantee at some point that's what's going to happen. That happens to every team. They definitely have a chance, because the way I see it, at least looking at this division from my perspective, is just the fact that this is not a great division. They certainly can rack up some wins in the division, and if they can win against the Braves and then win some of their non-division games, we may see them back in the playoffs. They were a 96-win team in 2012. They went 96-64. That was first in the division. You go to 2013, they fell off a little bit. Still had a winning record, but it was 86-76. That's only for second in the division. This coming year, I'm just not sure I buy into the Washington Nationals. I see them going 85-77, much similar to very similar to last year, and give them a little bit more time. Allow Bryce Harper to develop a little bit more, allow Steven Strasburg to develop a little bit more, and see where that could potentially take them.
Yeah, I see them going 85-77, and they're a good team. They perform well, but the question is will 85-77 get you to the playoffs? So I think they have a team to do it, but when you look at these other divisions, they have someone that does just a little bit better, and that they're not going to be a wild card team, and that they need to. Their main focus should be, as anyone else, win the division first, because you can't count on making it in as a wild card, because that goes to all the other teams. So, one team that can and that has been raking up the wins lately is the Atlanta Braves, though. They've been doing work. They've been racking up the wins constantly with their young talent. They just recently added to their starting rotation and signing Irvin Santana, which I think is a good acquisition and can definitely help this starting rotation. Added Gavin Floyd. It's an addition, but I don't see it having much impact. And then Ryan Doumit for catching. How well will he do as a backup catcher to Evan Gattis? We'll see.
I mean, we could also see. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Gattis spent some time out in the outfield last year when they were dealing with some of the injuries and things like that, or even maybe moved to a corner infield position. I mean, you may see Doumit start some games with Gattis in that position if that seems feasible. I think their pitching staff is definitely hurting, so that Irvin Santana signing seems that much more important right now, because Medlin, their number one pitcher, Chris Medlin, may be done for the year. If that's the case, they are severely weakened in the starting pitching. They still have Julio Teheran, a very, very young pitcher, but could be an ace someday. Mike Minor, he had a good year last year. Brandon Beachy, when healthy, did have a decent season for them. Their pitching staff definitely hurts with the losses of Paul Maholm and Tim Hudson. These are guys that they could rely on to not only get them wins, but also take up innings. This is not they may not have that anymore, and this bullpen, while very talented, may end up struggling at times because they are fatigued. I mean, it helps to have arguably the best closer in baseball in Craig Kimbrell, but he can't win you games. He's a closer. He's saving games for you. In the end, this pitching staff is going to have to step up for this team, and hopefully for the Braves' sake, you get some bounce back years, because after a very, very nice start for Justin Upton, he kind of fell off. B.J. Upton had one of the worst years I've seen for a starting center fielder in a very, very long time. Brian McCann is gone. He was the cornerstone of this offense for quite a few years. You go back another year. They lost Chipper Jones. They're really kind of starting up this offense anew, and that centers around, in my opinion, Jason Hayward and Freddie Freeman. These are the guys that will need to be relied upon heavily offensively to get this team going.
I mean, the one good you talk about how they're kind of dishing the young players in. They're in a recycle mode. The good thing, though, is that they do have this young core: Jason Hayward, Freddie Freeman. So even with the Upton brothers, they're young, so it's not like you're going through the Marlins. It's a rebuilding, but it's so fluid that, I hesitate to even call it rebuilding. It's just recycling players into the system, which they've been doing it seamless. There hasn't really been. To go ahead for a second. 2012, 94 and 68. 2013, 96 and 66. And then they did better. They're not they're not showing that they're losing anything when they lose these key players. They're showing that, hey, while they were solid for us, they did great job for us, we can still win without them. They've been the team in this division to prove that. In fact, I'd be gutsy enough to say that they're probably the best team. They've been shown to be the best team at this idea of recycling players in and showing that the next man up mentality of we can still win even when these guys are gone.
And it's not only when these guys are gone, but when these guys are just simply not performing. And that was B.J. Upton's problem last year. Last year, in 126 games, he hit $184. If you hit under 250, you're having a bad year. He hit under 200. That is just mind-boggling for me because B.J. Upton has the ability, because he has speed, to possibly hit in the high 200s, even 300, because of the fact that he can beat out infield hits potentially. He needs to get back on track for this team. They don't see him as being one of the top hitters on this team. They don't have him batting first. They don't have him batting third, fourth, or fifth. They have him batting seventh. Is the kind of prediction for this team. That is a lot of pressure that he doesn't have anymore. Because he, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he hit first. He was the leadoff hitter at opening day for this team. You take that away, you kind of ease him back in. This could be really important in the right direction for him.
With B.J. Upton, he's never been a contact hitter. So let's just put that out there. But by no means, there's no excuse to be hitting $184 in 126 games. In fact, he should be happy and thankful that he played in 126 games, hitting that low. Because if I was the manager, I wouldn't. I would say, hey, maybe you need to go down to the minors for a couple games to get your stroke back. But as long as you're hitting that, I'm not going to start you. You need to find that stroke again to hit a more respectable average. At this point, 231 would be better. That would be an improvement. And that's sad because that's still pretty bad. And so what they're looking for is someone, 254 would be fine. You look at his career stats, that's kind of the range that he's in, has always been in. He may have an outlier of like 297 a year or two, but he's usually in the 250 to 265 range. So can he have a bounce-back season? If he can have a bounce-back season, the Bash brothers could be in Atlanta. They could have a great 1-2 punch. They could have two great 1-2 punches. Freeman, Hayward, Upton, and Upton. That would be a solid offense. Evan Gattis in there, who's been doing well for them. They have weapons all around. It's a matter of getting them all to produce, to work as a team, to everyone find their stroke and not have the lineup set where you have all these guys having their stroke and then you have this one person who's really, really struggling that is a momentum killer. And that's what Upton seemed to be at times last year.
they have some guys on their bench that can fill in if we see that happen again. Personally, I don't see it happening again. I think B.J. Upton is going to have a good year for them, along with their other good players. And I mean, a guy that you didn't even mention that I think is kind of important is Dan Uggla. While he may be getting a little bit older, he's still got some power to him. That's another guy that when everyone else is having a rough day, maybe Dan Uggla puts something together and is able to give you a couple RBIs and make a big difference. Then you look at Andrelton Simmons. Simmons, he's a shortstop. He's really known for his glove, but who's to stop him as someone that may have let off some games for them last year? Simmons could be able to put together enough hits to make himself a better hitter. He hit 248 last year. Why not? Why can't he hit better? This is a team that's just loaded. I can't get away from that. You already mentioned it, Chad. They had 94 wins in 2012, going 94-68. That was good for second in the division. And then in 2013, we look at 96-66. That's good for first in the division. They made it to the playoffs. I just kind of see them falling right in the middle of that. I have them going 95-67. I see them really producing all across the board. I think B.J. Upton gets it back together. I think Justin Upton will hit similar to how he did at the beginning of the season. And like you talked about, their first group of the Bash brothers, Hayward and Freeman, they're signed long term. They're going to be around just as they deserve to be, and they're going to produce.
I mean, I see them going 95-67 as well. I mean, I guess technically that's a decline. One more loss, but I still see them finishing first in the division. I don't think there's anyone that has the key components that the Braves have to win the division. The Nationals will give them a run, but I think in the end, the Braves will pull away. Towards the end of the season, they'll pull off the NL East crown once again.
Well, Chad, we've made it through the division. Why don't you go ahead and review your standings?
Marlins. I see the Marlins finishing last. Like I said, they've made improvements, but I don't think it's enough to make any solid makeup ground. I see them finishing 75-87. The Mets finishing fourth, 78-84. Phillies just scraping above 500 at 82-80, finishing third. The Nationals showing their consistency in the winning ways, finishing second, 85-77, and the Braves just pulling away, finishing first with a 95-67 record.
Well, I'm noticing that you see a lot of high potential in these teams. Not so much with me. I have the Phillies finishing fifth, 64-98. The Mets going 70-92, finishing fourth. Miami jumping up to third place. They're going to go 73-89 the way I see it. I agree with the top two, not only in their placement, but also in their records. Washington Nationals finishing second, 85-77, and the Atlanta Braves finishing number one, 95-67. We've made it to the awards, Chad. We're going to start with the MVP. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to the Peach State, the Georgia Peach, and I'm going to pick Freddie Freeman. I think he's been doing great with Atlanta so far. I think that he will continue his production that he has shown the Braves so far, and he would be my pick for the NL East MVP.
Well, Chad, I'm going to stick with the same team because I truly believe that division winners deserve MVPs, or at least playoff teams. But I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm not seeing the Freddie Freeman quite as much as I'm seeing Jason Hayward. And I think the one thing that gives Jason Hayward a possible advantage in being able to get this crown is just the fact that he can steal some bases. He's got some speed on him. And because of that speed, he's batting first. And because of that, we're going to see potentially more at-bats for him. And in the end, those could be the differences between a little home run here, few RBIs here. I just think that's where Jason Hayward's going to have the difference between him and Freddie Freeman. I expect big seasons out of both of them. So in the end, you can't go wrong. Now, moving over to the Cy Young Award, Chad, I really struggled with this one, to be honest, because I am not someone that normally looks at closers for a Cy Young Award. Not that they can't win. In fact, you go back to 2003, Eric Gagne with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He ended up winning the Cy Young Award that year. Again, not something that I normally do. However, because I was very unimpressed overall by the talent of the starting pitchers in this division, outside of maybe Philadelphia, on a team that's not, in my opinion, very good, I ended up going with a closer in this one. I have Craig Kimbrell finishing with the NL East Cy Young Award, because I expect him to be just absolutely dominant from the closer position, finishing with over 40 saves this season, and really just doing everything he's asked to do.
For mine, I came down to two people. I agree with you on Kimbrell. The production that he has been able to put out there as a closer has been dominant. I haven't seen that kind of dominance out of a closer in a while. I think he's above Aroldis Chapman, partially because, in fact, I would compare him to Mariano Rivera in a sense, in that people know what's coming to them, and they still can't stop it. He has those moments where people know what his repertoire is, and they can't stop it. Unlike where you see Aroldis Chapman, people know what's coming for him, and now they're starting to catch on, and Chapman's become more vulnerable. But going back to the NL East, though, the other person I have, I'm going to leave the state of Georgia because I feel that Georgia has been receiving a lot of our love right now, and I'm going to go even farther south. I'm going to go to Miami. They're going to welcome me to Miami because I'm going to be picking Jose Fernandez. I mentioned him earlier. He was the Rookie of the Year last year, and I think he's going to make that jump. He's going to capture that Cy Young Award. For this division, I would give it to him. I believe his production is going to step up. I see him possibly being able to have 16 wins, which in my book is enough to receive legitimate consideration for this award. So,
I think you make a valid point. The way I see it is the fact that people are going to catch up to Fernandez as a second-year player, and he may not see that same success because it's just the way things work. I mean, I guess one guy I kind of look at was when Jay Bruce came up. He had a good month-long stretch where he was absolutely dominant, and then people caught up to him, and it's just the way things work in baseball. And I'm not saying Fernandez will necessarily struggle. I just don't think that he will be Cy Young worthy. Well, everyone, we thank you for listening once again. Be sure to check out our blog. That's chadandsamsportshr.wordpress.com. Check out all our many stories on there. We're going to be continuing to write stories so that you guys have something to be reading from us. Be sure to check out our Twitter. That's at Chad and Sam Sports Hour. And again, hour with an HR. And then be sure to look at our Facebook page. It's, once again, Chad and Sam Sports Hour. Like us on there. We'll make sure we keep you updated through that. For Chad Trine, I'm Sam Mullen. Thanks for listening once again. We'll be sure to hear from you soon.